The book of Second Kings, chapter 16, verse 1. 2 Kings, chapter 16, verse 1. 2 Kings, the 16th chapter, and the first verse. Here we go. Now you can see it. All right. It says, Ahaz becomes king over Judah. Ahaz, son of Jotham, became king of Judah during the 17th year that Pekah, son of Remaliah, was king of Israel. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king and ruled 16 years in Jerusalem. Unlike his ancestor David, he didn't do what the Lord said was right. He did the same bad things the kings of Israel had done. He burned his son as a sacrifice. Terrible. Wow. He copied the terrible sins of the nation that the Lord had forced to leave the country when the Israelites came. Ahaz made sacrifices and burned incense at the high places and on the high hills and under every green tree. King Rezin of Aram and King Pekah, son of Remaliah of Israel, came to fight against Jerusalem. Rezin and Pekah surrounded Ahaz but could not defeat him. At that time, King Rezin of Aram took back Eloth for Aram. Rezin took all the people of Judah who were living in Eloth. The Arameans settled in Eloth, and they're still living there today. Ahaz sent messengers to King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria with this message. I'm your servant. I'm like a son to you. Come and save me from the king of Aram and the king of Israel. They've come to fight me. Ahaz also took silver and gold that was in the temple of the Lord and in the treasuries of the king's palace. He sent a gift to the king of Assyria. The king of Assyria listened to Ahaz and went to fight against Damascus. The king captured that city and took the people from Damascus as prisoners to Kir. He also killed Rezin. King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria. Ahaz saw the altar at Damascus. He sent a model and pattern of this altar to Uriah the priest. Then Uriah the priest built an altar just like the model King Ahaz had sent him from Damascus. Uriah the priest built the altar this way before King Ahaz came back from Damascus. When the king arrived from Damascus, he saw the altar and offered sacrifices on the altar. He burned his burnt offerings and grain offerings on it and poured his drink offering and sprinkled the blood of his fellowship offerings on this altar. He took the bronze altar that was before the Lord from the front of the temple. This bronze altar was between Ahaz's altar and the temple of the Lord. He put the bronze altar on the north side of his own altar. He commanded Uriah the priest use the large altar to burn the morning burnt offerings, the evening grain offerings, and the drink offerings from all the people of this country. Sprinkle all the blood from the burnt offering and other sacrifices on the large altar. But I'll use the bronze altar to get answers from God. Uriah the priest did everything King Ahaz commanded him to do. There were carts with bronze panels and basins for the priests to wash their hands. King Ahaz removed the panels and basins and cut up the carts. He also took the large tank off the bronze bulls that stood under it. He put the large tank on a stone pavement. Workers had built a covered place inside the temple area for Sabbath meetings. But Ahaz removed the covered place and outside entrance for the king. He removed all these from the Lord's temple. Ahaz did this because of the king of Assyria. All the great things Ahaz did are written in the book, The History of the Kings of Judah. Interesting. He died and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. His son Hezekiah became the new king after him. That's strange considering that this man burned his own son as a sacrifice, and you're saying all the great things he did. Wow. 2 Kings 17, Hoshea begins his rule over Israel. Hoshea, son of Elah, began to rule in Samaria over Israel. This was during the 12th year that Ahaz was king of Judah. He ruled 9 years. He did what the Lord said was wrong, but he was not as bad as the kings of Israel who had ruled before him. Now, what does that mean? King Shalmaneser, that sounds like a praise. King Shalmaneser of Assyria came to fight against Hoshea and defeated him. So Hoshea paid tribute to Shalmaneser. Later, Hoshea sent messengers to the king of Egypt to ask for help. The king's name was So. That year, Hoshea did not pay tribute to the king of Assyria as he did every other year. The king of Assyria learned that Hoshea had made plans against him, so he arrested Hoshea and put him in jail. The king of Assyria attacked many places in Israel, and he came to Samaria and fought against it for 3 years. The king of Assyria took Samaria during the 9th year that Hoshea was king of Israel. He captured many Israelites and took them as prisoners to Assyria. He made them live in Halah by the Habor River at Gazan and in other cities of the Medes. These things happened because the Israelites had sinned against the Lord their God, and it was the Lord who brought the Israelites out of the land of Egypt. He saved them from the power of Egypt, the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, but the Israelites began worshiping other gods. They began doing the same things that other people did. And the Lord had forced those people to leave their land when the Israelites came. The Israelites also chose to be ruled by kings. The Israelites secretly did things against the Lord their God, and those things were wrong. The Israelites built high places in all their cities, from the smallest town to the largest city. They put up memorial stones and Asherah poles on every high hill and under every green tree. They burned incense there in all those places for worship. They did these things like the nations that the Lord forced out of the land before them. The Israelites did evil things that made the Lord angry. They served idols, and the Lord said to them, "You must not do this." The Lord used every prophet and seer to warn Israel and Judah. He said, "Turn away from the evil things you do. Obey my commands and laws. Follow all the law that I gave to your ancestors. I used my servants, the prophets, to give this law to you." But the people wouldn't listen. They were stubborn like their ancestors. Their ancestors didn't believe the Lord their God. They refused to follow his laws and the agreement he made with their ancestors. They wouldn't listen to his warnings. They worshiped idols that were worth nothing. They themselves became worth nothing. The Lord had warned them not to do the evil things that the people in the nations around them did, but they lived the same way those people lived. The people stopped following the commands of the Lord their God. They made 2 gold statues of calves. They made Asherah poles. They worshiped all the stars of heaven. They served Baal. They sacrificed their sons and daughters in the fire. They used magic and witchcraft to try to learn the future. They sold themselves to what the Lord said was evil. They did this to make him angry. So the Lord became very angry with Israel and removed them from his sight. There were no Israelites left except the tribe of Judah. The people of Judah are also guilty, but even the people of Judah did not obey the commands of the Lord their God. They lived just like the Israelites had. The Lord rejected all the Israelites. He brought them many troubles. He let people destroy them. Finally, he threw them away and removed them from his sight. He tore them from the family of David, and they made Jeroboam son of Nebat their king. Jeroboam pulled the Israelites away from following the Lord. He caused them to commit a great sin. So the Israelites sinned in all the ways that Jeroboam did, and they didn't stop committing these sins until the Lord took Israel away from his sight. And he said this would happen. He sent his prophets to tell the people this would happen. So the Israelites were taken out of the country into Assyria, and they've been there to this day. Foreigners settled in Israel. And that's strange because people say support Israel no matter what. But when you read this, this is saying something totally different. This is the word of the Lord. Put that in the comment section. The king of Assyria took the Israelites out of Samaria and brought in other people from Babylon, Kuta, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim. They took over Samaria and lived in the cities around it. When these people began to live in Samaria, they did not honor the Lord. So the Lord sent lions to attack them, and the lions killed some of them. Some people said to the king of Assyria, "The people who you took away and put in the cities of Samaria don't know the law of the God of that country." So that God sent lions to attack them. The lions killed them because they don't know the law of the God of that country. So the king of Assyria gave this command: "You took some of the priests from Samaria, send one of them whom I captured back to Samaria. Let that priest go and live there, and he can teach the people the law of the God of that country." So one of the priests who the Assyrians had carried away from Samaria came to live in Bethel, and he taught the people how they should honor the Lord. But all those people made gods of their own. They put them in the temples at the high places that the people of Samaria had made. They did whatever, wherever they lived. The people of Babylon made the false god Succoth-Benoth. The people of Kuta made the false god Nergal. The people of Hamath made the false god Ashima. The people of Ava made the false gods Nebath and Tarkah. People from Sepharvaim also burned their children in the fire to honor their false god Andramelech and Anamelech. But they also worshiped the Lord. They chose priests for the high places from among the people. These priests made sacrifices for the people in the temples at those places of worship. They respect the Lord, but serve their own gods, just as they did in their own countries. Even today, they live the same way as they did in the past. They don't honor the Lord or obey the rules and commands of the Israelites. They don't obey the laws or commands of the Lord that he gave to the children of Israel. The Lord made an agreement with the Israelites. He commanded them, "You must not honor other gods. You must not worship them or serve them or offer sacrifices to them. But you must follow the Lord who brought you out of Egypt. He uses great power to save you. You must worship him and make sacrifices to him. You must obey the rules, laws, teaching, and commands that he wrote for you. You must obey these things all the time. You must not respect other gods. You must not forget the agreement that I made with you. You must not respect other gods. No, you must respect only the Lord, your God. Then he will save you from all your enemies." But the Israelites didn't listen. They kept on doing the same things they did before. So now those other nations respected the Lord, but they also served their own idols. Children and grandchildren did the same thing their ancestors did. They still do these things to this day. 2 Kings 18, Hezekiah begins his rule over Judah. Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, was the king of Judah. He began to rule during the 3rd year that Hoshea, son of Elah, was king of Israel. He was 25 years old when he began to rule, and he ruled 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abi, the daughter of Zechariah. Hezekiah did what the Lord said was right, just as David, his ancestor, had done. He destroyed the high places, broke the memorial stones, cut down the Asherah poles. At that time, the Israelites burned incense to the bronze snake made by Moses. This bronze snake was called Nehushtan. Hezekiah broke this bronze snake into pieces. I won't repeat that. That sounds demonic. Hezekiah trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel. There was no one like Hezekiah among all the kings of Judah before him or after him. He was very faithful to the Lord and didn't stop following him. He obeyed the commands that the Lord had given to Moses. The Lord was with Hezekiah, so he was successful in everything he did. Hezekiah broke away from the king of Assyria and stopped serving him. Hezekiah defeated the Philistines all the way to Gaza and the area around it. He defeated all the Philistine cities from the smallest town to the largest city. The Assyrians captured Samaria. King Shalmaneser of Assyria went to fight against Samaria. His army surrounded the city. This happened during the 4th year that Hezekiah was king of Judah. This was also the 7th year that Hoshea, son of Elah, was king of Israel. At the end of the 3rd year, Shalmaneser captured Samaria. He took Samaria during the 6th year that Hezekiah was king of Judah. This was also the 9th year that Hoshea was king of Israel. King of Assyria took the Israelites as prisoners to Assyria. He made them live in Halah on the Habor, the river goes on, in the cities of the Medes. This happened because the Israelites did not obey the Lord their God. They broke his agreement and didn't obey everything that Moses, the Lord's servant, had commanded. The Israelites wouldn't listen to the Lord's agreement or do to what he taught them to do. Assyria gets ready to take Judah. During Hezekiah's 14th year as king, King Sennacherib of Assyria went to fight against all the strong cities of Judah. Sennacherib defeated them all. Then Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent a message to the king of Assyria at Lachish. Hezekiah said, "I've done no wrong. Leave me alone, and I'll pay whatever you want." Then the king of Assyria told Hezekiah of Judah to pay over 11 tons of silver and 1 ton of gold. Hezekiah gave all the silver that was in the Lord's temple and the king's treasuries. This is when Hezekiah cut off the gold that he had put on the doors and doorposts of the Lord's temple and gave it to the king of Assyria. King of Assyria sends men to Jerusalem. The king of Assyria sent his 3 most important officers with a large army to King Hezekiah in Jerusalem. They left Lachish and went to Jerusalem. They stood near the aqueduct by the upper pool on the street that leads to Laundryman's Field. They called for the king, but Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, Shebna, and Joah, the son of Asaph, went to meet him. Eliakim was a palace manager. Joah was the record keeper, and Sheba was the royal secretary. The commander said to them, "Tell Hezekiah, this is what the great king, the king of Assyria, says. What are you trusting in to help? If you say, I trust in the power of great battle plans, then all that's useless. I ask you, who do you trust so much that you're willing to rebel against me? Are you dependent on Egypt to help you? Egypt is like a broken walking stick. If you lean on it for support, it will only hurt you and make a hole in your hand. Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, cannot be trusted by anyone who depends on him for help. Maybe you'll say we trust in the Lord our God to help us. But I know that Hezekiah destroyed the altars and high places where people worship the Lord. Hezekiah told the people of Judah, you must worship only at one altar here in Jerusalem. If you still want to fight my master, the king of Assyria, I'll make an agreement with you. I promise that I'll give you 2,000 horses if you can find enough men to ride on them into battle. But even then, you couldn't beat one of my master's lowest ranking officers. So why do you still depend on Egypt's chariots and horse soldiers? Now, do you think I came to this country to destroy it without the Lord's help? No, the Lord said to me, go up against this country and destroy it. Then Elkiam, the son of Hilkiah, Shebna, and Joah said to the messenger, please speak to us in Aramaic. We understand that language. Don't speak to us in the language of Judah because the people on the wall will understand you. But the commander said, my master sent me to speak to everyone, not just to you and your master. I must also speak to those people sitting there on the wall. When we surround your city, they'll suffer too. Like you, they'll become so hungry, they'll eat their own waste and drink their own urine. Then the commander, shouting loudly in Hebrew, gave this warning to them all. Hear this message from the great king of Assyria. This is what the king says. Don't let Hezekiah fool you. He can't save you from my power. Don't listen to him when he tells you to trust in the Lord. Don't believe him when he says the Lord will save us. He will not let the king of Assyria defeat the city. Don't listen to Hezekiah. This is what the king of Assyria says. Come out here and show me that you want peace. Then you'll be free and have grapes from your own vines, figs from your own trees, and water from your own well. After some time, I'll come and take you to a land like your own. In that new land, you'll have plenty of grain for making bread and vineyards, for producing wine. I'm offering you a choice to live instead of dying. Don't believe Hezekiah when he tells you the Lord will save you. He is wrong. Did any of the gods of the other nations save them from the king of Assyria? When I destroyed the cities of Hamath and Arpad, where are their gods? What about the gods of Zeraphim, Hena, and Eva? Were any of the gods able to save Samaria from my power? None of the gods of these other places were able to save their land from me. So why do you think the Lord can save Jerusalem from me? But the people were silent. They didn't say a word to the commander because Hezekiah commanded them, don't you say anything to him. Don't say nothing to that man. Then the palace manager, Eliakim, son of Hilkiah, the royal secretary, Sheba, and the record keeper, Joah of Asaph, went to Hezekiah. Their clothes were torn to show they were upset. They told Hezekiah everything the Assyrian commander had said. This is the word of the Lord, or shall I say, this is what is recorded in the word of the Lord. Place those words in the comment section. This is the word of the Lord. Follow, like, share, and subscribe, and encourage other people to